Everything that we watch, everything that we see does influence. And we ought to just own to that and say, I'm aware of that. I watch a commercial, I know it has an influence. I know it's going to impact me. So our responsibility is really just to be aware of it and to recognize the influence for what is. Like the flame, to be able to know the flame consumes, and it's dangerous. And I need to be aware of it, and so therefore I need to be responsible in the way that I use it, the way that I allow it to get involved and enter into my life. And so that's part of what Paul is trying to say. Be aware of these influences, and that's a way to help control the kind of entertainment and balance the level of entertainment in our life. But then he goes on to really measure in here. Then he says, the question he asks is, am I seeing the fruit that God produces? So if I'm aware of, if I'm listening to God speaking in the context of entertainment and pleasures and fun and all that, and I'm aware of the influence that it has, and then the question that comes with that then is saying, the real measurement then is to see what kind of fruit is being produced. If I want to know if I'm having too much entertainment, take a look at the results. Take a look at the fruit. Paul describes in here as he goes through, and we know through Scripture about what it's like to live in the will of God and what His design is. God has a perfect design for us. I had a quote, and I forgot to bring it. I wish I did, because it was from C.S. Lewis, just describing the ignorance of us as human beings and what we pursue, when God offers such a radiant joy of life, and yet we choose the pleasures that are so low in comparison. And so Paul is challenging us to be able to say, take a look at this influence, and then look to see, how does it impact your life? What is it producing? Is it producing the kind of things that God describes in our life? Use it as a marker in your life to identify. Does my entertainment help to produce love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and those kind of things in my life? Or does it have an opposite effect? Is it becoming destructive in my life? Is my desire to escape keeping me away from facing issues in relationships that I really should be facing? The spiritual nature builds up relationships. That's what God's will is. The spiritual nature draws us into community. That's what God's will. And when we see entertainment doing the opposite, then we know that we have unhealthy entertainment or too much entertainment. There was a study done, and you guys know these things, but there's a study done about violence on TV with children. It said kids witness over 200,000 acts of violence by the time they're 18. And they, through their studies, recognized 3 distinct responses to that are documented. One is that it increases fear among children. Our daughter was going to go to a birthday party, and so she talked to her friend. Now they can do their own conversation without us being involved. And so we said, yeah, you can go. So then she hangs up, and I said, so where do you got to bring you? Oh, we're supposed to meet at Movies 14. So, really? They're going to go to a movie. Well, what movie? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't you call back and find out what movie they're going to? And we're talking 9-year-old daughter. So she calls, she hangs up, says, we're going to Avatar. I mean, I hadn't seen it yet. I says, Avatar? Really? Are you sure? Because we just watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you freaked out when the, the ant came. I mean, are you sure this is going to be right for you? So I ended up, going. And we went and saw it, and we thought there's no way she would have survived through that. I mean, we had to walk out of Polar Express, so I can't imagine what would have happened in a movie like Avatar. But the message there is pretty clear that when kids see that kind of stuff on TV, it influences them, and it creates a fear among children. Another one is desensitizes their real-life violence. They become less impacted by the reality of violence or the things that even happen in their school. because they're so desensitized by what they see on TV. And then, of course, it increases aggressive behavior, which studies clearly show that there was a study that if they watch under an hour a day, about 5% of the kids show aggressive behavior. So when it goes up to 1 to 3 hours, it jumps to like 25% of the kids. And then it escalated from there the more that they watched of violence on TV. I mean, this clearly tells us that, you know, it doesn't fit God's agenda for us as parents to be raising our kids in a situation where they're creating fear or desensitizing or violence. I mean, that's just not a healthy kind of a situation. But TV doesn't just influence our children. Shane Phipps in the same book that I mentioned, Flexing Pixels, said, the medium of image draws our attention away from the inner life and toward the appearance of things. And this has a serious implication for the soul. Think about that. That the image and TV, let me give you an example. I watched, not Angels and Demons, what was the other one? What was it? I can't hear you guys. Da Vinci Code. Thank you. Da Vinci Code. I should have wrote it down. But anyway, I thought, oh, I know that. Da Vinci Code. I watched the movie. And then I read the book. I mean, as I'm reading the book, all I could see was Tom Hanks. You know, that's what happens, is that we lose our creativity with image, that we put an image in our head and it suddenly shrinks us down to where we have a visual image. And so we see people and we define our relationships based on more of an external. And it takes the deep level of relationships and moves it to the surface. And we're kind of locked in there. It impacts things like PowerPoint or inserts. That if I gave you an insert, so I intentionally did that. I gave you just a black screen with a white lettering, and some of you are thinking, God, could he not be more creative? You know? Or an insert you want in there because it's about filling out the blanks, and I can move ahead, and now it's about the blank, not about what's being said, because I can't process the thought. I just need to fill in the blank. All of that, right or wrong, all of that, we're influenced and impacted by the way that entertainment works in our life. And we become focused more on external things. And so let me talk about Facebook as an example. And, you know, I'm going to go back and see how many people defriend me. And I joke about that, but the truth is, you know, we love the fact that you can defriend someone and they don't know it. Imagine what would happen if you knew that if you defriend me, that they're going to be, it's going to pop up, Mark so-and-so defriended you and decided they no longer want to be your friend. We would do it less because we couldn't handle the confrontation of a relationship. We love the idea of a relationship where we control it, where I can log on and I can interact when I want to. I can respond and feel like I'm having a conversation with you even though it's 6 hours later on something you might have said. I love that about Facebook. And I can watch what other people are doing and they don't know that I'm in their room watching them. You know? We love that. Because it's a relationship that's just not really genuine. It's a relationship that only goes to a certain level. It's not, these are not the people that, I mean, you know, someone I saw bragged about 600 and something friends. It's like, really? I mean, do you have them over for dinner? One article I read, the guy had all these friends and thought, I'm going to throw a party. And he decided, I'm going to just invite them all to a party. And you know, like a couple of people showed up. It was just not, you know, it's not the same thing. And it has a purpose in what we do, and it builds some casual relationships, but it's not the depth in which God intended. And so we just need to be aware of that and understand how it impacts our life and the kind of fruit that it generates. Entertainment is meant to be like the lighter. If it's kept within the control and within the confines of what God intended, it's a very useful tool. It does. I mean, I love to get home if a stressful day and watch a show that just causes me to relax. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's great to get together with a family and play Wii. And yeah, my daughter wants to knock my glasses off in boxing. I mean, there's some therapeutic issues there maybe. But, you know, it's an interaction. There's some good stuff that can kind of happen in those situations. There's nothing wrong with getting together with someone and having a beer and talking about old times or any of those kind of things.